a little better than we do
right.
as average citizens.
Well, but that's still, though, a kind of that's a positive swing to it all then in one way, because what that means is that we can possibly take measures ourselves, obviously, by keeping ourselves healthy, doing detox and things like that as well. Then we won't suffer as much as if we, just go on living our lives, ordinarily like we always do, and think we're gonna, stay healthy. But because we might be in a time period right now where that simply won't work because of these substances that are floating around in the air, aluminum, barium, as you mentioned, strontium, so forth as well. So that's a positive thing in one sense. But beyond that, have you taken any approach in the film in terms of actions that can be taken to turn this around? Is this about raising awareness to more and more people so that everybody, so to speak, can approach their individual governments about these things, or what view do you take on this, Michael?
Absolutely. That was the goal of the film. When I started this back in February, I had two goals in mind, because I literally went out and found out that most people, in my rough estimation, is that about 90% of the population is unaware of these programs. So I set out really to do a couple of things. A, to make people aware of these programs, and B, to make them understand that these programs are both toxic to ecology and human health. And I think that with this program, we achieved that, and we're hoping to get other people to question this. We're hoping to get people to do tests, and then also to spread the word. Now, we've motivated people with the things that we've been doing. Some people we've motivated to take legal action. We know some attorneys that are filing lawsuits. Other people have taken proactive political action by contacting the representatives and putting pressure on them. So we're really hoping just to motivate people to get active, because we are being poisoned, we are being sprayed, and we're under attack. So people do need to get active. They need to look inside and find out what gifts they have, and use those gifts to help raise awareness and address this.
Well, you said that this has been going on for a while now. Reports for probably 10 years or more, something around that area. And with that in consideration, where are the insiders? Where are the whistleblowers? Or are there maybe those out there, but I've simply missed it, Michael?
Well, both. We're again, like I said, a lot of people are unaware, and we think that a lot of people who are involved with these programs probably aren't aware of how damaging they are. They're probably not aware that they're poisoning their children when they're up there spraying. They're probably not aware that maybe their cousin has health problems directly related to what they're doing. So that's what we're hoping to do, just make people aware. Even we're reaching out to the pilots and people involved with these programs so that they do know what they're doing. With that being said, it is important that what was the question again? I'm sorry, I got a little off track.
Basically, just where the insiders and the whistleblowers are. You think more people would speak out about it if they've been part of a program? Maybe they heard something online about chemtrails and are eager to speak out. Yes. But as far as I know, anyway, there aren't any out there.
Well, there are some, and you don't have to go far before you look online, and you can find people who have blown the whistle. However, that's obviously not being promoted on the corporate mainstream media.
Sure.
Who let me add, are heavily funded by companies like General Electric, Raytheon, who is known to be involved with these, and then also the aluminum company. So there are people who have come out, but largely it's still being undercover. So we do have a lot of work to do to get people to stand up. I do know that many who are involved with these illegal operations are fearful to stand up and start speaking about them.
Yeah. Because
it is so toxic, it is so damaging, and again, there's a lot of money and political power associated with these programs. So I think up until now, it's been kind of a challenge for the masses who aren't involved to stand up and start speaking. But I think we're going to see it. I do have hope.
You mentioned some companies before. Do you have any names out there that you can share with us, or is this something that you reveal in the movie, Michael?
Well, we don't get too much into the companies, but obviously we know that Raytheon is heavily involved with the HARP program. They also have a lot of involvement with weather control and weather modification. So it's safe to make a link with them. And then, look at some of the military contractors. We didn't do a real heavy research into that, and we don't get too much into that in the film, but you don't have to look far before you begin to realize who the players are that are involved with this. Again, the film is just under 1 hour and 40 minutes, and it was really, really a challenge to pack all the information that we have into this time period. I'm thinking about doing a part 2 of this film where I do dig a little bit deeper into the many issues that we just had the time to touch on.
I also heard here that you kind of connect this whole agenda of chemtrails with the GMO agenda, genetic, modified organisms, or engineering of our food, etc. Isn't that right?
Well, absolutely. Now, what they're seeing around the world in areas that have spraying, which is mostly around the world, acidic soils are they are turning into more basic. And the scientists and the biologists and people with credible credentials have told us that exactly aluminum, barium, and strontium will drive soil pH to more alkaline. And that's exactly what they're seeing. In Mount Shasta, they've seen a change by 10 times. So by a bare minimum, the soil now is 10 times the alkalinity of what it should be and was about 10 to 15 years ago. What does that do? It kills ecosystems because a lot of plant life and forest in that area require an acidic soil to grow. So the soil is changing, and everything is literally dying as a result of this. Well, you had mentioned GMO seeds. So when we were in Hawaii, we did a week of filming, and it was just a beautiful place to live because we stayed on an organic farm, and we picked our food off of the trees. So the people that we stayed with grew their own food. They were completely independent from any corporation, any store, and it was really a beautiful place to live. However, they're beginning to see a die on the land because they are getting sprayed really heavy. And what they believe, and I believe this as well, is that this is in part of an agenda off anything that's natural and organic, and then redesigned, because there now is a redesigned GMO seed that's being manufactured, a seed that can grow and survive in aluminum. So it looks like it's in part an agenda to literally take over the food supply. So, after leaving, I couldn't help to think and to kind of wonder what their lives are going to be like in 10 years. They're living a very peaceful and free life, but if they can't grow food, where are they going to go for seeds? Are they going to have to go to a corporation and company to get seeds? And really, what are the requirements for that? Will they have to pay additional money? Will they have to pass certifications? And that's the end of freedom as we know it.
Well, it's very interesting, I think, that you bring this up. I remember just an article here a couple of days ago that we put on the website, redicecreations.com, about the issue that some of the wheat is being struck now around the planet. It seems like it's a wheat, a stem rust, they call it, which has been classified as UG99, and it began in Uganda back in 99. That's why it has that kind of strange name. But they fear that in a worst case scenario, all the wheat around the planet might actually die because of this. And obviously, even if this particular one is engineered or not, we can leave to the side. But what it means is that potentially what we might be offered as a kind of a solution to this problem might be some of the GMO wheat out there from Monsanto, Syngenta, or some of the other corporations out there. Is this all connected, do you think, in one way? Is this connected with the depopulation agenda, controlling our food supply, etc.? Because that would be the ultimate control, I'd reckon. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I think that you're correct. Yeah, it does appear that it's an attempt to control not only anything that's natural and organic, so it's a usurping of authority of what once was free and given to us by our Creator God. But then it also looks like it's an attempt to decrease the food supply, and essentially, as hard as this is to believe, to starve people out. One of the, interestingly enough, and I just want to touch on this, one of the one of the negatives that was discussed by geoengineers about these programs was that they would create droughts in Africa and Asia, thus resulting in thousands, if not millions, of deaths. So, I think it's all related. It's all part of a broader scheme to reduce the Earth's population down to what they consider a nice manageable amount, and also to have complete control so that people cannot live independently from the system, which I call the beast, this corporate system. So very frightening to a lot of us who know about these programs and are looking into it more deeply. It's the emergence of this world government, this new world order, where they have complete control over every human and every plant.
Absolutely, that seems to be the goal, as it were. And in some respect, it seems like they're successful. In other ones, it seems like they are totally failing as well. It's kind of an ongoing little balancing act that is happening right now as well. People are getting more and more aware as they kind of push and try to get their agenda through. At the same time, people are kind of dull and tired and falling asleep in another way as well. But in terms of just the food supply issue here again, I mean, I know that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is behind some of the funding for the global seed vault up in Svalbard, where they save some of the genetically diverse seeds and all of this as well, which is very, very interesting, because again we go back to this idea that if they are going to save away the good seeds, so to speak, and we're going to be offered some of these genetically weak seeds, our food supply could go under, because of climatic changes or things like that as well. If we're working with GMO seeds, if everybody has those seeds, so again we might be looking at a co-joint operation here, if you will, in one way, that we're given first seeds that are weaker in terms of the genetic diversity, and then a switch happen in terms of climatic changes around the world, where the food supply drops. So the whole chemtrail issue could be tied in, just as you suggested, Michael, to a much, much bigger agenda that might be unfolding in a different way, a couple of years down the road from now. What do you think?
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. It really appears that this is their end game. It's almost like a game of bowling where they're hitting a strike. They're knocking down a whole bunch of pins at once, and that pin being, unfortunately, depopulation, it's control, and amongst just a few of the things. And then, we discuss the military applications and the other things that are involved. But yes, it's very frightening to us, because we are seeing a decline on anything that's natural and organic, and we are seeing the emergence of these GMO seeds. And it's called the Hegelian dialectic. It's the problem, reaction, solution. And right now, the problem that's emerging is with the farmers that are saying, whoa, we're not being able to grow our food. What do we do? And that's the reaction. What do we do? We're in trouble here. Yeah. And then the solution, unfortunately, is this new GMO seed that's being manufactured, and that is the solution. Unfortunately, it's not a good solution, because it's based on control, it's based on money, it's based on power, and those are not things of God. Yeah. It's not based on nature, it's not based on love. And that's the new evil world that is quickly emerging, and I believe directly linked into these chemtrail geoengineering programs.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's a sick way of going about dealing with reality, because again we're talking about people who are seeking ultimate control of everything, down to the minute details of nature as well. And do you connect the chemtrail issue at all with HARP then, and other HARP similar kind of technologies that I've heard that people are even connecting the chemtrail issue to scalar weaponry as well? That the chemtrails are laid as a kind of a mat, if you will, in our sky, and then they do subsequently scalar weaponry testing on this, and they want to see the visual pattern on satellite imagery and things like that as well. And that is another reason for this. Do you go into this at all? Have you heard about this, Michael?
Well, I have heard about it, and I believe that it merits further investigation. In the film, we don't go too much into depth in that, because it would have taken a lot of time just to explain that. So, that's why we're hoping to do a part two, and I think that we will. But yes, it appears that with this new weaponry does require, as we stated before, a plasma sky, some type of metal particulate which is in the air. It's amazing